Hi, my name is Ian, and today I will be interviewing Campbell, who is a self-publishing author and an orphan who was saved in Vietnam during the Vietnam War by the Canadian forces. He was the 32nd Vietnamese orphan during Operation Baby Lift, and he is here today, and he's going to tell us his unique story. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ian. Appreciate being here.
And I heard you're currently on tour. How's that?
That's correct. So I'm touring right now to schools, different social groups like Rotary groups and Probus groups, just sharing the story of coming to Canada as a war orphan from Vietnam in 1975. So many people have heard about the boat refugees that left April 30th, at the fall of Saigon, but not many people have heard about the story. 57 children loaded up in banana boxes in the back of a Hercules C-130. And as they were taking off from Tan Son Nhut Airport, they were actually shot at, but miraculously made it out safely to Hong Kong. And so in my book, I recount that story about coming to Canada with the other orphans and then landing here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and then being adopted by Canadian parents.
So what inspired you to write your book?
Well, as I've been touring, I've been speaking and sharing my story for quite some time now. And after my talks, people will come up to me and say, "Have you written this story down? It's so fantastic." And so I eventually caved in and I said, okay, I'll write this story. So I started in 2010, finished it in 2012, and finally at the end of 2013, got it published. I self-published it. And then by the middle of 2014, I'd already sold out of my first 1,000 copies. So I know it's of a story of interest of people because it's a new story out of the Vietnamese War.
So it took you approximately about 2 years, and this is basically up to date, up to your current life?
That's right. So what it shares somewhat is the story of us coming to Canada. Then what happened in 2003 is actually I got to meet one of the other adoptees who was on my plane. And so, as orphans, when we were kind of dispersed through Canada, we had really no contact until that point. And then, so in 2003, I actually got to meet one of them. And then by 2006, we put together a reunion of about 42 out of the 57 children that flew with us back in 1975. So we had a big gala dinner in Burlington, Ontario. We came down here to Toronto. We saw Surrey Place Centre. And it was fantastic. It was awesome. So so I share a little bit of the story of us getting together in 2006. And then, I guess life happens, and the story got covered by newspapers around the world. And there was one in Vietnam, in Saigon, the Tui Tre newspaper, covered the story about these orphans getting back together in Burlington. And then a family contacted me who had read the story. I couldn't believe it when I got the email, because basically what they'd done is that they had listed all the family members. And I looked at my birth certificate and all the names in his family were the same on my birth certificate. And this was bizarre for me. So then, the only way we could prove there was any connection was to do DNA testing.
That's right.
And so we did DNA testing in December of 2006. We got the results back in 2007, and the number at the bottom of the sheet says 99.999%.
Wow.
I was flabbergasted, right? So to find out that I actually had family back in Vietnam who were still waiting to hear from me, had been looking for me for over 30 years, to finally have that door closed and to know beyond all doubt that there was a family waiting for me. So we flew back in 2009 as a family, and we got to meet my father and my brothers. Unfortunately, my mom had passed away in 1987, so I didn't have a chance to meet her. So the story recounts all of that journey up to that point.
Right. So I'm sure the viewers want to know, how did you feel at that moment when you met your parents, or your dad and your brother?
Everybody asks me that question, and it's an interesting feeling because I just really wanted to go through it and experience it. I didn't want to become over emotional and lose some of it.
Right.
So people call me very stoic, but I was just very observational. I was very objective about it. And but it was surreal. I was very excited to know that this man was my father, and to be able to give him a hug and have that kind of that closure for him that he finally found his long lost son. It just meant whole lot to me that I was able to do that for him, introduce him to his grandchildren, and he had a chance to actually personally thank my dad, Reverend William Campbell, for raising me in Canada and bringing me up. So it was a very meaningful trip to all of us.
Right. And so did he bring anyone with him, or was it just your dad? And where did you guys meet?
Well, when we arrived at the airport, we were coming out of the arrivals, and they were right there along the fence. And so my dad was there, my three brothers were there, and all of their family, right? So one of my brothers, his wife, my other brother's wives, and their children were all at the airport. Like, it was like 11:30 at night, but they all had come to meet us. So yeah, very nice.
This book, who would you recommend it to?
I wrote it specifically for kind of a younger demographic, so that it's very easy reading. But I've had people, adults, grandparents who've read it, who love it. I've had school children who've read it and love it. So it's really a human interest story. But basically, those people who like nonfiction stories or biographies, I think they'll really like reading through this unique story. Those who are interested in the Vietnamese War and just another perspective or another take on it, I think they'll be very interested in picking this up.
Right. So this story basically tells the viewers and whoever is reading the book the story of your life. And does it go through the stories when you were in high school, or like how you grew up here in Canada?
It reflects back a little bit during my growing up time, struggling with identity and struggling with who I am, because I'm growing up in this Canadian family. I know I don't look like them. I'll come down to Toronto, to maybe Chinatown. I know I look like everybody, but I don't really understand the culture. I don't speak the language. I don't eat the food. And so it was just, I don't fit in one world. I don't fit in this world. Who do I belong to? And so I do talk about a little bit about my school age time.
So I understand that you have an upcoming contest?
Yes, so what I'm doing is I'm actually turning the book into a children's illustrated version. And so I have an art contest through the Ontario High School students. They can register. They purchase a book for $15, and then they produce 2 illustrations that they feel represents the stories. And then we're going to be doing a kind of a competition down in Hamilton, and I will pick the winner, and the winner will receive a $2,000 scholarship to help me produce the remaining illustrations for the book. And then hopefully we'll have the book produced by December 2016. Right. So Christmas 2016.
So what are the requirements to enter in this contest?
Really, all they have to do is contact me at ton@orphan32.com. They can do that. Or they can go to my website, orphan32.com, download the registration form, and then I will send them the book. They read it, and then they can produce the illustrations, scan them, but I'm actually going to need the hard copies for the art show in Hamilton in June. So, but that's how people can register for that. So I'm very excited about it because I've got a lot of students who are interested, and I want to translate this book into not only English, but Vietnamese and French. So hopefully their work will be seen by people around the world.
That's right, around the world.
And that's something significant for a high school student to have their artwork go around the world.
That's right. So I understand that you're doing illustrations and you're writing a book, but have you ever thought of shooting it on video?
Good question. So this summer I'm actually planning to go back and I want to take some footage, and we actually want to produce a mini documentary about this story, and actually enter it into Toronto International Film Festival in the fall. And we just want to kind of showcase and give a little taste of what this story is all about and what a full documentary could look like. And so I'm going to go back this summer, and I want to be able to do some, footage. I have some footage from 2009, put it together, and just create the story in video form. Eventually, we'd love to have a full-length documentary produced, and maybe even a feature film.
Right. So after all of these events, you are currently residing in Hamilton now?
That's correct, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I understand that you have a fundraiser coming on?
That's right. So to help support the efforts for the documentary that I'm going to be filming, I actually have an Indiegogo fundraiser. So people can go to indiegogo.com, go to film and look up Orphan32, and people who help sponsor that project will actually be named in the film credits for the documentary. So it's kind of a neat project to be a part of.
So thank you very much for having you on the show. All right. You can pick up a copy of his book at orphan32.com, and his ebook releases on April 30th. Thanks for watching. I will see you all next time.